मैं बड़े ही गर्व से कहना चाहूंगी कि पर्यावरण के क्षेत्र में आपके योगदान का मुकाबला नहीं। आपकी गाइडेंस, आपके आशीर्वाद से हम जरूर ही एक नई दिशा की ओर बढ़ेंगे। एक नई दिशा, एक गहन चिंतन के साथ अपनी मातृभूमि को सुंदर और स्वच्छ बनाने में हर संभव कदम उठाएंगे। मैं से हम की ओर बढ़ेंगे, समाज को, देश को निस्वार्थ और स्व प्रेरणा के साथ सुंदर और स्वच्छ बनाएंगे। एक बार फिर सर आपका बहुत बहुत आभार व धन्यवाद। We are honored and privileged to have our honorable chief guest, Ms. Nita Ganguly ji. She is an educator, humanist, motivator, attitude changer, author, climate leader mentor, and national coordinator, waste management, TCRP India. She is a winner of several national and state awards, a Fulbright scholar and a TED speaker. She has authored 2 illustrated children's story books, Polytrap and Hello Earth, Here We Come, that sensitizes young minds to be the eco-responsible. In 2008, she was certified as a climate reality leader by the Nobel laureate and the former US President, Vice President, Mr. A.I. Gore, and the Climate Reality Project. She firmly believes that people cannot be forced to adopt certain attitudes unless they embrace a sense of responsibility and accountability to protect the environment. Today, we are happy to have such a passionate personality who is remarkably excellent in a significant contribution as a citizen of India. Ma'am, I request you to kindly share your thoughts and experiences with one and all present here. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much. Namaskar. Namaskar to everyone. I'll share my presentation, and then if you have any questions, you can ask me later. Can you all see?
Ji ma'am, it is visible ma'am.
Yeah, I made it screen share. I'm waiting for it to turn into slideshow. So before it's, technology is now we are totally dependent on technology, and in a way मैं कहती हूँ कि टेक्नोलॉजी बून है, क्योंकि पहले हम लोग कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए जाते थे, ट्रेन, प्लेन, उसके लिए फिर खाना बनाना, ये करना, कितना सब मतलब कि हमारा कार्बन फुटप्रिंट अभी काफ़ी कम हो गया, क्योंकि हम 100 जने एक साथ बैठ के अपना प्रेजेंटेशन देख सकते हैं। आपको दिख रहा है, अभी हुआ है ये एक पिक्चर मेरे को कल ही किसी एक फ्रेंड ने भेजा उसके गार्डन में, और जो आपको ये मॉथ दिख रहा है, मॉथ एंड बटरफ्लाई डिफरेंट होता है, तो ये है मॉथ, और ये मॉथ एक्चुअली इसका नाम है एटलस मॉथ। तो बहुत ही सुंदर है। इसका बेसिकली आपको दिख रहा है ये ग्रीन कलर, ये ज़्यादातर ब्राउन, येलो इसी कलर्स में स्पॉट्स होते हैं, मगर ये ग्रीन वाला स्पॉटेड एटलस मॉथ है। तो मैंने सोचा इसी को ही अपना फर्स्ट स्लाइड बनाऊं। सो माय द topic I'm taking today is climate change, a reality. Now, what you see in front of you is a hand pump. अब आप सोच के देखिए, हैंड पम्प सी बीच के बीच में कोई डालता है? थोड़ा सा ऑड लग रहा है ना, कि बीच में, ज़्यादातर गांव में होता है जहाँ पर आपको पानी चाहिए, मगर ये सी बीच के ऊपर बीच में आपको एक हैंड पम्प दिख रहा है। मगर आप ध्यान से देखिए, जो आपका हैंडल है उसकी तरफ देखिए, तो वहाँ आपको एक छोटा सा येलो एक स्ट्रक्चर मिल रहा है। ये एक मंदिर है। ये उड़ीसा कान्हापुर का गांव होता था, और यहाँ पर इसको कहते हैं, ये लोग 7 भाई थे। इस 7 भाई से अभी 5 भाई सिर्फ रह गए हैं, सिर्फ 5 भाई रह गए, और वो आपको दिख रहा है वो मंदिर है। ज्यादातर मंदिर हम एक पेडेस्टल में रखते हैं, ऊपर रखते हैं। तो यहाँ पर गांव बसता था, मगर क्योंकि ये समुद्र पास आ गया है, इसलिए ये गांव अपना जगह छोड़ के they moved to this higher land, and this is a reality which coastal regions are facing, and this is in Orissa. So when I found out more about it, I found out that यहाँ पर लोग खेती बाड़ी करते थे पहले. They used to grow rice, they had coconut palms, and agricultural इनका वो था. मगर because of the sea rise, because they had to move away, because of migration, because of relocation, and because the sea has practically swallowed and eaten up their land, they have now changed their profession from agriculture, paddy cultivation, to now fishery. अब मछली पकड़ के अपना जीवन बचाते हैं. Can you imagine? And one of the comments I read कि किसी ने कहा कि हम तो एकदम नेचुरल ऑर्गेनिक एग्रीकल्चर करते थे, हम कोई पेस्टिसाइड नहीं यूज करते थे, हम कोई एकदम ऑर्गेनिक करते थे, कोई तरह का केमिकल क्यों नहीं यूज करते, तो फिर हम लोग क्यों इस तरह का हमें मुश्किल फेस करना पड़ा. So it is not because of their agricultural practice that they are facing. It is because a collective thing which has actually resulted in the sea level rising and change in the wind patterns. And because of this, they have now facing every monsoon, they face the high tidal waves, and their land is being actually eaten away, swallowed away by the sea. And there's a lot of coastal erosion which they are facing. So sea level rises because when the ice melts, we know that we have glaciers, and these glaciers are as big as oceans, you know, and they're solid ice which are melting. And the reason they're melting is because of the heat. 2.1% of the Earth's frozen water is actually the water which is essential for us. If it trickles down, it is our drinking water. It's a fresh water, but they're melting too fast. If you look at all the glaciers of the world, they're all over. It's not only in the north and the south pole; they're all over. Even in the equatorial plains, also in the Peru, you will have. It all depends upon what is the altitude of that place. But the largest, yes, is in Antarctica, which consists about 84.16% of all the glaciers, and then comes the Arctic region. Now, to understand the difference between Antarctica and Arctic, supposing I take a empty glass and I pour water into it. And then after pouring water, I put in some ice. So these floating ice is basically, they are Arctic, floating ice. But if you talk about Antarctic, I take an empty glass, I first stack it up with ice from the base till the brim, or even go beyond the brim, and then pour water. Land mass ice is Antarctica. So there is a lot of difference between them. They're huge, they're massive. So if you look at Antarctica, and if I take only a small portion of the western part of Antarctica, I'll take again a tiny little portion known as Larsen Ice Shelf B. So if you look at Larsen Ice Shelf B, from the sea level upwards, the height goes to about 721 feet. But you know, there's a saying which is the tip of an iceberg. Well, what you see is only a tip, but there are 90 to 99% of the ice which is below this water is actually the glacial mass. So if you see 721 feet above the sea level, 90% is below that. And scientists said so much of stacked solid ice, it will take 100 years for so-called global warming to melt it. So this picture of the Larsen Ice Shelf was taken in January 31st, 2002. Just after a week, few days, this was the picture which is taken. And another week, this was the picture. And by March 5th, 6 weeks later, about 3,250 kilometers of 720 feet high, remember 90% is below, just crumbled and vanished. And this is a reality. This is not a made up thing, it's a reality. In fact, if you look at Larsen shelves, there is Larsen A, B, C, etc. So A had already disappeared. It has already disappeared. It's already gone. It's not there anymore. 1995 was gone, but people really didn't think about it because people were just getting to know what exactly global warming is. But it is predicted by the end of this year, 2020, this year, the whole Larsen ice B will collapse. Larsen C, which is even bigger and greater than that of B, has already started showing signs of breaking away. So this is a reality. This is another picture of Greenland, which is that in the Arctic region, is an unnamed glacier. The picture was taken in 1935 and this was taken in 2013. So you can see how quickly they are melting. In fact, the rate at which they are declining is really, really rapid. Antarctica loss is we are losing at a very rapid stage, and they are huge masses. And why? And they are we are losing billion metric tons of ice losses happening every year. Every year it is happening. So Greenland and Arctic as well as Antarctica both are melting at a rate of about 6 times faster than what it used to do in 1920s. And these are frozen. You remember the fresh water which is required for us to survive. Without fresh water, we can't. We can't drink the sea water. We know that. These are your Himalayas. And the signs of melting of Himalayas. In fact, they say the rate at which it is melting is double since the 20 years. And this is because of heat. Ice only melts of heat. Remember, in India, we are only fed by these glaciers in the northern part, and the rest of the India actually depends upon forest. So glaciers and forests are the two sources of our fresh drinking water, and both are under destruction. So why do these glaciers melt? Now we have learned the science, isn't it, that black is something which absorbs heat and white reflects the heat. We've learned it in our science. This is exactly what is happening in the Arctic and the Antarctic region. So when the sun rays falls, 15% on an ice white solid substance will get absorbed the heat. The rest 85% of the heat will get reflected back. But when the water around it, if you see the water around it, 93% of the heat gets reflected, it gets absorbed, and only 7% gets reflected. So there is a difference between a liquid and a solid and a white surface and a darker surface. We know that, we've learned it. And this is what is happening in an Arctic region. The liquid part, the water part, is slowly increasing, and with the increase in the water and the decrease in the white solid ice, obviously the 93% of heat absorption is also increasing, and therefore this is causing the waters to warm up. So what is the real cause of this heat, and what is the real cause of this global warming? So a lot of people said, well, if you see, it's maybe because of the sun rays. But is it because of the sun? Is it because that the Earth's position from the sun is in the third place compared to the other planet? So let's compare the planets. Let's take 4 planets and let's compare the distance of the planet from the sun. So let's take the first 4, and I'm taking Earth. And if I take the average heat of the Earth, total average heat, it comes to about 15 degrees Celsius. And this 15 degrees Celsius, because it is a 15 degrees Celsius, and because carbon dioxide is there, we keep talking about carbon dioxide. Because of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, our Earth is a warm place. Otherwise, it would have been minus 18 degrees Celsius. It would have been like a ball of ice. But it's quite a comfortable place we live in, and that is planet Earth. So is the distance the problem? Let's find out. The 4th planet is Mars. And since it is away from the Earth, it's in the 4th place. And logic says, since it is away, its average temperature is about minus 55 degrees Celsius. The planet which is in the 2nd place is Venus. Logic again says, since it is closer than Earth, obviously its temperature is higher. So it's, if you see the average temperature, it's about 457 degrees Celsius. And the planet which is closest to the sun is Mercury, but its temperature is not higher than Venus. Now, isn't that surprising? So it totally negates the thing that distance of the planet from the sun has got anything to do with the heat. Now the question is, why is it that the Mercury, being the closest, does not have the highest temperature? I would like you to look at the blue rings. The ring represents the atmosphere of each of these planets, and the blue color represents the carbon dioxide. Mercury, I believe, has negligible or practically no carbon dioxide, and because of that, as you know, that the physical property of carbon dioxide is to absorb heat. So since it is negligible, most of the heat which it gets from the sun gets reflected. That is what is happening in the Mercury. Venus, on the other hand, has the maximum carbon dioxide, and because of more carbon dioxide compared to any of the planet, it absorbs all the heat, and it is the hottest planet. So it is the carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, which is responsible, one of the gases which is responsible for heating a planet. Now, this is an atmosphere, the picture of an atmosphere. If you look at the atmosphere around a planet, it's very thin, it's very vulnerable. And if you want to know exactly how thin it is, if I take a football and varnish it with a nail polish, whatever is the ratio of that nail polish to that football, that is the ratio of the atmosphere to the earth. And what are we doing to it? We are spewing it with 152 million tons of man-made global warming pollutions into the thin shells of an atmosphere every day. Every day we are doing that. We're treating it like an open sewer. In fact, James Hansen in 2013 in a TED talk, he has said that the amount we are putting, the heat we are putting it, the global warming we are putting it is equivalent to bombarding and bursting 400,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs every day for 365 days. This was said in 2013. Today, if we measure that equivalent, it is now 500,000. So isn't this something very strange? 50 years back, we actually celebrated Earth Day, thinking that people are going to be told and people are going to have the knowledge about why we need to save this earth. But 50 years henceforth, the pollution level has not decreased. With this awareness, it has actually increased. There's something going wrong with the way we are delivering and reaching out to the people.
Okay.
Why is it that we are not able to reach out to the people in the right way? And that is the question we need to actually ask. Do we need to change the way we are actually reaching out to people? So if you look at the biggest source of greenhouse gases, is we are the contributor. We are the contributor. But nature has also given us these natural sinks which can actually absorb your carbon dioxide. They are your soil, but most of them are concretized. You look outside your house, if you have a small आंगन, वो भी आपका cemented होगा. So that is what we are doing. The water is anyway getting warmer, and the forest जो भी है, that's an excellent carbon sink. हम उसको निकाल दे रहे हैं क्योंकि we think about development. Man-made development is more important than having the tree. That is the problem we are facing. Let's talk about this mangrove. Now, mangrove are known as a superstars when it comes to saving the environment. They are excellent and they work in more efficiently than the terrestrial trees. So this is an ecosystem. This is a system where it is in contact with soil, with water and trees. That means all the three carbon sinks which nature has provided, nature has actually brought them all together. This is what the coastal region is. And India is a peninsula, isn't it? We are surrounded with water on three sides. And it is said that these excellent carbon sinks can take in the atmospheric carbon dioxide beautifully. In fact, they are 10 times more efficient than the terrestrial trees. But if you cut them, if you replace them with the so-called man-made modernized world, then remember, if it can take more carbon dioxide, it also gives back that more carbon dioxide. So we need to really think about it before we remove these mangrove forests and these cultures, groves all around our coastal systems. This is a picture of a 3D heat map of Bangalore city. You can clearly see wherever there are no trees. You can spot the trees where there are trees and there are no trees. The color you can see over here is red. Extreme heat and humidity is what we face in 2020 this year. This is the picture taken this year. So global surface temperatures are actually increasing, and this is an anomaly. I mean, there was a time till 1940 and there was a fluctuation, but from 1970 onwards, it just took a positive move. And by the end of this year, 72% chances that this is going to be the hottest year. In fact, if you look at the last 5 or even 20 hottest year, it's been happening every year. And each year
Really.
it's been proved to be hotter than the previous year. And this trend is not changing. It's just becoming hotter and hotter. And that's reality. Miami, where the temperature never went up above 30 degrees Celsius, this year in 2020, it went up to about 40 degrees Celsius. And this is a reality. This year, India, in the month of May, a place called Churu in Rajasthan faced 50 degrees Celsius. So trends are, we are not, we have the things with us, but we make sure that we don't give it an importance. What that tree can do in a place like that, no other structure can do it. But how long is that tree going to stand? I really don't know, because you can see the rest of the place, it's all wiped out. And this is what we need to think about. The natural sink, please respect them, please take care of them. The same extra heat that evaporates more water from the oceans, causing bigger downpours and floods. It is the same seed which it pulls out that moisture even more quickly in the soil, causing longer and deeper droughts. As Mr. Gopal just now said, that Chennai faced the, sorry, Chennai faced the 0 day. And that's a reality. That's a shame. In fact, if you remember 2016, we had to send a train, water train to Latur. What went wrong that we had to send a water train to Latur? It again got repeated next year and again in 2019. So the trends are not actually changing. The trends are becoming worse and worse. That is what is. This year, Europe, now it's unheard of Europe having alarmingly low groundwater. In fact, there are regions like Poland, Romania, they face drought. Czech Republic faced drought after 500 years. This is unheard of, but this is what even European countries, where you never think about temperature going to 40 degrees Celsius, are going to 40 degrees Celsius in the summer. So with the heat, another incident which keeps increasing is the fire. And as the temperature increases, the fire incidents also get increased. So with less rainfall, high temperature and dry wind blowing, these actually lead to spontaneous fire. Remember, for over a year, last year to this year, December and January, Australia kept burning. Billions of animals were killed in this ambush, in the bushfire. It's literally like an ambush, isn't it? California is burning this year. And there are about 2.5 million acres of land is already lost. It's burning. They announce that there's an orange haze, and that's what because of the fire, the flames, which is. And what can we say about South America? South America is a different story altogether. And not much news is coming in because of the lockdown and all, but already it has been found, and October the print published it, that what happened in 2019, we have already surpassed it in 2020 by October. The year is not ended, but we have already surpassed it. So why is it there is fire? See, lightning can be one of the natural causes, isn't it, for fire to happen. We have no control over it. And spontaneous combustion can also happen because of heat, because of lack of rainfall and dry wind. But 84% of the fire which is happening in our forests is because of us. We are the cause of the destruction of our own biodiversity. In Australian fire, as I said, about 500 million, they actually died, but 3 billion together were displaced and killed. This happened from May to June 2020, May of 2019, last year. And if I just take 7.7% of the total area that is burned in the South American fire, 2.3 million animals we have lost, and we are still losing it because this fire is still on. So why do forest fire burn? Why are they burning? Isn't forest supposed to be economical? I guess they are not, I believe. And I was surprised to read that timber, by from the timber, what income they can get from timber is hardly anything, and it is cheaper to burn that forest than and convert them into agricultural land, agriculture of cash crops. You turn it into livestock rearing. And of course, you want to live in a so-called smart city and call them infrastructural development. But 91% of these forests are actually being converted into animal husbandry, livestock, 91, where they're rearing cattle, pigs, poultry, you name it. That's what they are converting it. And we know that 51% of all the greenhouse gases is this is what it is responsible. Agriculture from animal is responsible for. So we need to make a conscious change in exactly what our need and what our wants are. We have to make a conscious change in our way of living and even our food and appetite. That is what we need to change. This is what has to change. By the time I finish, about 4,000 football field size forests have disappeared, and they're disappearing every year, and this is a reality. The carbon sink is vanishing too soon. And we are not really bothered about these tiny creatures because they are not profitable to me. So by the end of the century, 50% of our land-based species will also disappear. And this is an alarming thing. So what happens to the heat? 93% of this excess heat which we are bombarding into our system and we are putting it, it's actually getting absorbed by the ocean, because I said ocean is the largest carbon sink. It's the largest carbon sink. 78% of the heat gets actually it's able to take care of it. And therefore, if you look at the ocean temperature anomaly from 1998 onwards, it has taken a positive trend. There were times when the temperature never rose above 0 degrees Celsius. Now it is above. And by 2020, it's likely to set another new record. And this is something which we need to think about, because when the heat is more, as I've said earlier, when the heat is more water gets evaporated, and more water evaporation causes more of this water vapor. Now, water vapor is also a greenhouse gas. And whatever a greenhouse gas like a carbon dioxide does, water vapor does it even more, because it's a greater, and there is much more in number compared to the carbon dioxide. And therefore, we see a trend nowadays is cloudburst. रिमझिम बरसे पानी, ये गाना अब ऑब्सोलीट हो गया है, हम गा ही नहीं सकते हैं क्योंकि रिमझिम बरसता ही नहीं है. Now there are cloudbursts, thunderstorms, which happens too quickly. Water gets picked up too quickly, forms cloud, and is poured. It's like having a hose piper with the speed coming over you, and causes a lot of destruction. This picture has become an anomaly when it comes to floods, isn't it? If you see this picture, you can never forget 2013, what happened. But after 2013, India has facing flood. 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, on even this year. So the incidents where it used to happen in 1 or 2 places, as now we talk about 13 states, 14 states. And how can we forget Assam, which faces the blunt every year? And millions of people actually lose their household, they lose their income and even life. So globally, floods and extreme rainfall events have actually become 4 times more than what it used to happen in 1980. And so the trend is, when the oceans get heat, the water temperature becomes hot, and with the heat, the wind velocity also increases, and a lot of moisture gets picked up, and this, because of this, causes a lot of hurricanes, and you only require 26.5 degrees Celsius temperature from 50 meters from the sea level for any hurricanes to start. So I actually wanted to find out what is this trend, and I Google searched and I found from 1890s to 1950s, there was hardly any incidents were happening. And then in 60s to 80s, in 3 decades, there were 8 strong storms. And now from 1990s, remember I showed you the graph from 98 onwards, the trend started becoming positive. Every year we are facing minimum one cyclonic storm. In fact, the nomenclature has changed to deep depressions, very severe cyclonic storms, extremely severe cyclonic storm, super cyclonic storm. And this year we saw a super cyclonic storm of a category 5 amphan, where the landfall was in West Bengal. 15 days henceforth we saw Nisagra. So it is not one minimum. Even last year, again, this year, again, we are seeing too quickly, two storms are happening simultaneously. And this is a trend which we are facing, where there was a time where cyclonic storm was very rare. Now it is an every year's event. So super cyclone storm actually created the same havoc what it created in Orissa 21 years back. So people actually started evacuating. Remember the 7 brothers I spoke about, Satyagraha and Kanapur? Remember that Kanapur ka hand pump? And this is the hand pump of Satyagraha, the other brother. You can see a hand pump is when you put a hand pump only about 2 meters or less is above the ground level. Here you can see a 6 meters hand pump. So what has happened? Did they put a 6 meters hand pump like this with maybe more meters going underneath? No. So this is what Satyabaha is facing, and this is what the other 5 brothers had faced and vanished. So what is happening is a coastal erosion. So you can imagine how much of soil has been eroded that it exposed this hand pump. And this is a reality. They've already lost 10 tube wells. And tube wells is a source of their fresh drinking water because they cannot drink that seawater. To survive, they need the hand pumps. And this is the state the coastal regions are facing. And we know now how this vicious circle works. So if you see, climate change is likely to lead to food shortages. Yes, we are already seeing it. Water shortages, pandemic disease. We are already in a pandemic world now. Disputes over refugees and resources, destructions by by nature's disasters and regions across the globe. So this is something which we are facing. And I totally believe to stop climate change, we have to save all those trees which are existing and plant more trees. We need more trees if we need to normalize our climate. By cutting them down and calling them that this is modernization or a smart city is actually being very foolish. So we need to. And one large, huge tree, which is about 300 meters tall, cannot be replaced by 10 little saplings, where there is no surety that they will survive. So along with reducing our carbon footprint, we also have to increase our handprint and start taking action. As Gopalji just now said, that you may be finding it boring, but this planet needs our action. We have to start taking our own responsibility. So this is a story of a grandfather and his grandson, and they were walking down this beach. All of a sudden, it the shore, the sea brings in a huge wave, and lots of these starfish gets thrown over the beach. So this grandson gets very excited. He saw so many starfish in front of it. So he started running. He picks up one starfish and he throws it back into the sea. He runs again. He picks up another starfish and he starts throwing it into the sea. He starts doing that. So grandfather gets very angry. He says, "Kya kar rahe ho? क्यों टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे हो? वी हैव कम हियर फॉर अ मॉर्निंग वॉक. क्या फर्क पड़ता है? There are thousands of these starfish which are lying over there. You cannot save them. Just forget it, leave it, and let's continue with our walk. So the grandson looks at the starfish, then he looks at his grandfather, and he looks at the starfish again. Then he again runs, picks up a starfish, throws it back into the sea, and he says, turns to his grandfather and says, I just made a difference to this one. Farak padta hai. It makes a difference. No cause is lost as long as there is one person to fight it. हम अपने घर में रहते हैं, सुंदर रखते हैं, साफ सफाई करते हैं, मगर उसी घर का जो कचरा है हम बाहर फेंक देते हैं। याद रखिए, वो चार दीवारी आपका घर नहीं है, ये पृथ्वी हम सबका घर है, और जो सामने आपके है वो है सारे जहां से अच्छा। जय हिंद। Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very, very informative and a wonderful presentation, and making us realize that how important it is to conserve our environment. It is really an alarming stage for all of us, and judiciously using our natural resources is a need of an hour. पर्यावरण को बचाना है, संजो कर रखना है, और ये हम सब का कर्तव्य है। अगर आज भी हम इस रियलिटी को नहीं समझेंगे तो शायद हम आने वाली जनरेशन को कुछ भी नहीं दे पाएंगे। तो सभी स्टूडेंट्स के लिए ये आज एक बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न खड़ा है, पर उत्तर आप सब ने अपने आप मिलकर ढूंढना है। सो लेट्स अवेक एंड डू समथिंग फॉर आवर मदर अर्थ, रिस्पेक्ट द मदर अर्थ। जैसा मैम ने बताया, फर्क पड़ता है। हमें अपने धरती माता को, हमें अपनी मातृभूमि को सुंदर बनाना है, सारे जहां से अच्छा एक बार फिर से बनाना है। So with this note, once again on behalf of the entire SIP team, I extend my thanks to the eminent guest. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
आज
जैसा कि हम सब जानते हैं कि पर्यावरण संरक्षण गतिविधि के अंतर्गत सभी यूनिवर्सिटीज एंड कॉलेजेस ने अपने स्तर पर वन नेशन वन वीक का कार्यक्रम 15 अगस्त से लेकर 21 अगस्त तक चलाया था, और विभिन्न कार्य योजनाओं के द्वारा कई पर्यावरण एक्टिविटीज भी कराई, जिसमें न केवल विद्यार्थियों ने बल्कि यूनिवर्सिटी और कॉलेजेस के प्रमुख ने भी भाग लिया। आइए देखते हैं इन गतिविधियों की एक झलक एक वीडियो प्रस्तुति द्वारा।